Okay, number 1. The table shows Bailey's expenses for the month of May. So we have the expenses and we have the amount. And we're going to list the fixed expenses and the variable expenses. So rent, rent is a fixed expense. Rent does not change. Your car payment is a fixed expense. Your car payment does not change. Entertainment can change. You might see a couple movies a month, or you might see no movies. So entertainment is variable. Gasoline changes depending on how much you drive that month. So gasoline is variable. Groceries changes depending on what kind of foods you buy. So the only ones that are fixed expenses are rent and car payments. Number 2, the table shows Jacob's expenses for the month of March. Here's his expenses, here's the amount. We're going to list the fixed expenses, list the variable expenses. So rent is going to be the same. So rent is a fixed expense. Car payment is going to stay the same. Your car payment is a fixed expense. It's the same every month. Entertainment can change depending on what you're doing that month. You may have parties to go to or different things, so it's going to change. Utilities, that's your like gas and water, and that can change. So it's a variable expense depending on if it's winter or summer, how much you're watering your lawn, that can change. Clothes can change, so that's a variable expense. Back to school time, you buy more clothes. In the winter, you might buy a coat. So those kind of things change. So they're variable. So the only things that are fixed expenses are the rent and the car payment. Number 3, Justine lives in an apartment while attending college. Her monthly rent last year was $680, but this year she has to pay $800 per month. By what percent did her monthly rent increase from last year to this year? What percent did her monthly rent increase from last year to this year? So since this is percent and increase, we have to do a percent of increase proportion. That's where we subtract the old from the new, and we put it over the old, and we put that out of 100. The only proportions that have 100 are the ones that say percent. If they don't say percent, it's not out of 100. My two numbers I need to subtract are the 800 and the 680. So I'm going to subtract. That gives me a difference of 120. That 120 goes on top. The old number is the 680 that I started with, and that's equal to percent out of 100. I'm going to cross multiply because that's how I solve a proportion. I'm solving for that percent. So this is 680x is equal to 112 times 100. So this is 680x equal to 12,000. Divide both sides by 680 because that's how I solve a proportion. I can divide by 10 real fast and knock off the zeros. So I want to see how many times 68 goes into 1200. Okay, unfortunately, these are not pretty numbers, but I can use my answer choices. They all start with 1. So I'm going to say 68 goes into 120 one time. I'm going to subtract, bring down my 0. All right, this is going to go in there 7 times, which is 476. And bring my 0 down, add a decimal, bring the decimal up. And this is going to go 6 times. All right, and I'm sorry, I thought this one was going to be an even 15%, but this is going to be the 17.6. You're not going to have to multiply and divide anything that difficult on the test. But this is a percent proportion. Be able to set up your proportion and solve it. Number 4. Kevin weighs 200 pounds when he started his diet. He now weighs 174 pounds. What percent of his original weight did Kevin lose? Okay, so it's percent, it's losing, so we need a percent decrease proportion. So this is a percentage change proportion again. And you know this just because the way the question is asking you about the change. So we need the new minus the old over the old. So we're going to subtract his two weights. And we get 26 pounds. So 26 pounds over his old weight of 200 is equal to what percent out of 100? All right, so we're going to cross multiply because that's how we solve a proportion. 200x is equal to 26 times the 100. So 200x is equal to 2600. Divide by 200 because that's how you solve a proportion. Okay, I can divide by 10, divide by 10. So now all I have to do is divide 2 into 26. Well, that goes in there 13 times, so this percent was much nicer. So that gives me a percent decrease of 13%.